$15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay.
Visit mintmobile.com/radio.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Here's the tale of the daily med fill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill. But those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings wrangler rode in. Cool as can be. Tap Good RX. Saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. The deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check Good RX. Good RX is not insurance.
The wife of former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez learned her fate today. CBS News correspondent Michael Wallace has details from New York.
A federal judge gave Nadine Menendez 4.5 years in prison for colluding with her husband, who traded his political influence as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee for bribes involving cash, gold bars, and a Mercedes. The former senator is serving an 11-year sentence. Mrs. Menendez sobbed as she told the court she was duped by her husband's power and felt compelled to do whatever he asked of her. The judge said he granted Nadine Menendez leniency in part because of her health. She's had a difficult recovery from breast cancer. Michael Wallace, CBS News.
The UN Migration Agency is appealing for funds to help as many as 135,000 people in Afghanistan, nearly 2 weeks after the earthquake there killed more than 2,000 people. Nearly 500,000 people were impacted by the quake. Many countries have been hesitant to send aid to the Taliban government. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
The youngest job seekers are the ones most likely to ask AI for advice, and they're glad they did. I'm Jeff Colvin of Fortune magazine with the Fortune Business Update. It shouldn't be a surprise. Today's young adults are finding new ways to use AI every day, so of course they're asking it for advice on where to work. And after they do, hardly any of them regret it. For young adults, getting a job without AI is unthinkable. They use it to identify high-demand, high-paying jobs, and then use it to write resumes and cover letters. Then they use it to prepare for interviews, and if they get an offer in another town, they ask AI whether they should relocate. A year into the job, they ask AI how to negotiate a raise. But for today's young workers, there is actually one source of job-related advice they use even more than AI. It's their parents. I'm Jeff Colvin.
6 o'clock to 8 o'clock every Friday evening. Join Rand and Jenny Kaufman for The Edge of Heaven, a talk show to take you to the fifth dimension where you find out who you are. What is the purpose of your life? How can your purpose be fulfilled? What motivates you to do what you do? What are you searching for? What keeps you going in your day-to-day life? What is real? Why do you care? Why do you work? Why do you love? Sponsored by Burger King, Jay Goodman, and Asmujow Community School.
Getting your financial life in order. I'm Mark Hamrick with the Bankrate.com Personal Finance Minute. The notion of a bucket list for some people might involve taking an exotic trip, parachuting out of an airplane, or scaling a mountain. But what about achieving your financial goals? Here are some things to put on your money-oriented list. In many cases, working on one of them will help you to achieve another. Success builds upon itself. Keep in mind, our surveys have found the main financial regret among Americans is the failure to save, either for retirement or emergencies. So working to avoid those traps is a laudable goal. In order to borrow when needed, whether for a home or car purchase or to use a credit card, you'll need to have a good credit score. How do you do that? Pay your bills on time, avoid too much debt. Paying down debt should be a bucket list item as well. Target the highest cost borrowing first. How's your retirement savings? One popular goal is trying to build $1 million in savings through a 401k. For more, check out Bankrate.com. I'm Mark Hamrick.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show hosts, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show. Half a day, everybody, and welcome here to Wave 105.1 FM. We'll be getting started real soon here with our show, Edukuentos. first and foremost, we want to thank our friends over there at BKU Roll for letting this all happen. You could check them out in Hagåtña, Tuman, the microm on the airport. And while you're eating your favorite Whopper, don't forget to vote for them for Pika's Best Burger. Big shout outs to our friends over there at BKU Roll. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this betness started with Edukuentos.
Buenas and half a day, everyone. Good morning. It is your GDOEPIO Damen, Michael, and Coco Borja. And alongside me, of course, the beautiful, the amazing, one and only producer of Edukuentos, Miss Reese the Beast.
Period. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As we are here for another episode of This Week on Edukuentos, we have, our special education division joining us today. We have two special ladies who have been a part of making it all happen in behind the scenes. So, of course, we have Miss Janice Almoguera. She is the parent service coordinator.
Yes.
Lead parent service coordinator, I'm so sorry to say.
Yes.
And then we also have Miss Christina Noquet. She is the Plan C.
Part C.
Part C lead coordinator. I'm not too sure what the actual title is, but don't worry too much about it, guys. But yeah, we're here to talk about, basically today is going to be an episode about special education. It's going to be a great time. If you guys are, want to call in, you guys want to learn more, talk to us, please do. We're here and we're ready for it. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's get into this. So, tell us a little bit about yourselves, because as we were talking offline, sometimes people don't know what the role that you guys play at GDOE and just in the special education division itself.
Okay, so I'm Janice Almoguera. Good morning, everybody. And I am the Parent Services Coordinator with the Division of Special Education. And basically, the Parent Services Unit is to help parents, advocate for them, and whatever trainings that they may need, if there's any concerns, any questions that the parents may have about the services that their student is receiving, then it can come through my office. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then for you, Miss Christina?
And I'm Christina Noquet with Early Intervention, Part C. And if you've ever interacted with me on the professional level, I usually go by Tina, so please call me Tina.
Oh, yes.
It stems from when you're little and young and growing up in Guam. If they call you by your full name, that means something you're in trouble.
Yeah, everyone's gonna get mad
I always
at you.
look forward to be calling Tina. But I have been with the Department of Education for about 5 years now. Previously, I was in the nonprofit work, so this is my first. Not my first go-round with the government, but going back into kind of where I came from, which is the social work field. So I am officially a social worker with the department, so multiple hats. But I am very proud to be able to lead our Part C program, which is the early intervention, which is our 0 to 3 population here on Guam. We did have a few retirements of our long time veteran program coordinators. So big shoes to fill, right? So I'm happy to share this morning what I've learned and what we hope to do, moving forward.
Perfect. And, that's a good segue to get into it. So can you guys tell us a little bit about this new Guam Early Intervention System, the 03 version that you guys are talking about? I know offline we were talking about it, basically like a rebranding. Yeah. So let's get into it. What is this rebranding?
So like I mentioned, and, we're here today as guests, excuse me, of the special education division, right? And this is where we've been all these years, and we want to help our community make that connection right away. That education begins in the homes with our families, and through our program, our Part C program, that's where we are. And so if we can, and our program specifically is designed to help those who have developmental delays, or are at risk for having those delays, right? And we want to give them the best start in life, and catching those children and those families who need that support early on will help us to lead to better outcomes when they start preschool and into our educational system, and then on to our community and being those productive members of our community in the ways that our best for them, and helping our community also be more welcoming and accommodating for all the kinds of people that we have in our community and all the skill levels. So 0 to 3, as soon as they are born, if there's some concerns, if they have some trouble in that NICU, right? They've spent a few days or even more than 24 hours with respiratory issues and they need that oxygen. We want to be able to be there for the families, so that as soon as they have this situation that they're dealing with, they have somebody that's able to support them. So we are regulated and governed by federal statute, right? The IDEA, and that's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And this act was designed to help, again, provide that support for those persons with disabilities. And so Part C, and that's the Part C of our name, that's the part of the law that provides our regulations. So, it's a civil right. It's an entitlement. If your child has a delay, we're here and we have our rules and regulations to help provide that service for you. So we look forward, hopefully through this program and through the other outreach events that we have scheduled, that we can make that connection with our community. Damon, I'm going to go back to your original question about this whole rebranding. Again, and it's making that connection. So many in our community know the Guam Early Intervention System, right? And we call it a system because it's not just GDOE. It's not just the doctors. It's not just the families, right? It's a whole system of care that's designed to help support this child and family throughout all of the things that they need to be able to meet milestones, progress, and, just be better, get to where they need to be, right? And so it's a whole system of folks. But we do want to emphasize that GDU, our connection to our education, again, our education department, and that, that 0 to 3. So really it's 0 through 2, because then at 3 years old, we do have our early childhood special education program that takes over for the preschool, right? But we are still there to receive the referrals. And if they come in later on, closer to 3, we can already start to make that connection over to the preschool program.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, she's,
okay, so she's got it all basically.
Yeah,
she has all the knowledge with it. So tell me a little bit more about, I guess, when we're going into this rebranding, was it because we saw a new market, a new target, or a new way of expressing education to the younger children?
I don't think it's a new market or a new target, but we are doing it because we are looking at the numbers of our community that we're serving, right? And when we look at, and I referenced the IDEA, there are specific outcomes that we need to achieve, right? And they're watching and following for us. And one of them is our outcome 5, which is the population of us serving in the 0 to 1, those babies, right? And what we're seeing with our data is that those numbers are really low. But we're still getting our children, but we're getting them later on, closer to the 3. So, we want to emphasize that early part in early intervention, and we want to start getting out, the connection so that it's not a surprise, or it's a different way of looking at the support that we're providing, right? It's, we're preparing, right? It's education. It's not just, and we also want to frame it where we're here to support, and there's not that there's something bad or wrong with the child, but we see that there's some support that could be provided to the families. And that we want to start early. Because the earlier you start, the more time we have to really work with the families, because we use a coaching model, which is, it's an adult learning methodology where we're working with the families because they are with their child longer in the day, right? And the data shows that if we can enhance their capacity and build it and do these strategies and activities in their daily routines and activities of the family, normal routines, they have more opportunities to practice and then more opportunities to see that progression happening. So it's not a one-on-one. We're going to take the child and we're going to do our service on the side and then give them back. We go into the homes in the natural environment, and that's also a key aspect of the work that we do. Is we do work in the child's natural environment. Again, because it's recognizable for the family, it's comfortable for them, and we're meeting them where they're at, right? Wherever they're at, we're going to meet them and providing that support. So by coaching the parents and the caregivers, and by caregivers, that also might include a daycare, or if, grandma or Lola or Nana is watching them in the day, we can also do visits with them and get everybody on board so that we're all doing the same thing. And it's strategies that are evidence-based, so we know that they work if they are applied, to fidelity, right? But again, looking back at the family's activities and routines, it's the more opportune, it's more natural for them to do, and so we're hoping that they'll be able to do it without even thinking about that they're doing it, right? Yeah, it becomes part of what they do.
So I have a question in terms of like catching these early, I guess, delays with these students and the kids that have these delays. How do you know a student is going through that, or like might have, I guess, I don't know what the proper terminology is, but like is going to need that special education? Because like when you're a kid at 1 or 2, you see them running around, they're playing, they're having a good time. You really can't. At least I can't tell. So how do you determine the student will need that kind of help? Or the kid, sorry. One
thing is to know what typical development looks like, right? And milestones. What should we be seeing? And the CDC has a great resource out there. It's called the Learn the Signs, Act Early. There's an app, all right? There's free materials you can order on the website. You can go online and click, great, this is the age of my child, and then a list pops up of all of the milestones, all the things that children this age are typically doing. And this list is based on what 75% of children this age are doing, right? And so if there's a few things that are missing, then you know, okay, well, maybe I need to think about getting my child evaluated, right?
Okay.
The other part is when they go into the doctor's office. The doctor will typically do a screener, and I think back of when I was, when I had my son, which is a long time ago, and those visits, I answered the questions, but it never really dawned on me why it's like, oh yeah, this is what you do in a medical appointment, right? But now we have also been working on having our pediatricians really hone in on asking those questions, doing those screeners, so that families are asking the questions and checking it out, checking it out with their children, and we're being able to find them soon enough, early enough. There are also different strategies. So if you see, okay, my child is not doing this, that CDC website and those milestones will give you activities that you can do with your family to help enhance those skills and to help work on that. So doctors' offices, going online yourself, family members also. We have families that when their kids interact, sometimes you're like, oh, there's all of these children playing over here, and then this one, right, not quite
playing in a sandbox by himself.
Things like that, right? That make you take a second look or a glance, and sometimes, and I want to say many times, probably we do brush it off and be like, oh, that's just him,
or he's shy,
right? Yep. That's just how he is, which is great, and all children are going to develop in their own time, in their own way, right? But we again are looking at how they're developing, and then we are comparing them to typically how others, right? Again, that 75% are developing, and if we see some things that are different, there are things that we can do to help check out, is there something more that I need to do, right? Do I need to take that step further? And that next step would be the screeners, and those are the types of things that we can do at early intervention.
So, you talked about the types of services that you guys, what other services does the early intervention program do for students and kids?
Yeah, so when there are concerns about development, we do the screeners. So we can see, through those screeners, we can see if further evaluation is warranted, right? And then if so, we do the additional developmental evaluation and perhaps maybe other areas, if it's a physical development, if they're not walking, by a certain age, if they're exhibiting other sensory needs, things like that, right?
like
Behaviors, communication, if they're not talking like other children their age or not talking at all, right? Or they're talking, their speech is not clear. These are all things that we can evaluate for. And then once they're eligible, we work on identifying the priorities and concerns of the families, right? So of the things and that they the goals that they have for their children, what is their priority, right? Is it going to be, is it their speech, is it them communicating, is it handling tantrums, the social interactions, right? Behaviors, all of that. And our families help us to identify what their priorities are. We work with them to develop their outcomes, right? And basically our goals, and together we develop that IFSP, which is the Individualized Family Services Plan. And you'll notice, and when Janice starts to talk, you'll notice a difference in our terminology, right? So at 0 to 3, we do IFSP because family is a huge component, right, of what we do. So we also might look at some family outcomes. So maybe some social supports, right? If the family doesn't have any medical insurance, or if they need food support, right? Things like that. So we do have social workers available. Some of the related services that we offer are physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, right? Social work services, nursing services. Again, it's all designed to help achieve and address the priorities and concerns for the family.
Do you believe that we are doing a good job reaching that or the community members to show them that we have all these services available?
I feel we are doing the best that we can right now, but because although we're not reaching everybody that we need to, we're always looking to do better. There's always room for improvement. So until we can say every child that is born, the family is advised and informed and knows about early intervention, then, that's going to be our target. So we're not there yet, right? But all of our partners, all of the opportunities, again, to get that word out, making those connections between the caregivers at the daycare, right? Helping them and training them to know what to look for, where to go if they identify children in their classroom that need support, right? When families are talking with other families, right? Having them comfortable to bring up the subject, because sometimes, we do get protective of our children, and there are those that can hear it and can say it, and there are those, right, that let's not go there. Let's not talk about it, right?
A normal situation in our current I guess community is that we have that pride, we have a quote unquote ego that we don't want our kids to feel that way, make them put them down, right? Kind of thing like that.
Right.
So I totally understand that.
Yeah. So we again work on that systems approach, right? Trying to get everybody who has contact with children in the demographics for us 0 to 3, and to be able to get them connected and know where to go. So that we can do a better job of reaching who we need to.
Yeah. So should parents be concerned about their child's development?
Always.
Always, yeah.
Right? Always. And we get it. Families, everybody is busy, right? But I like to remind our families to think about, how do we make our lives better, right? How do we, what is it in our lives that's challenging for us, right? Is it that mealtime? Am I struggling to get, my child transitioned from playtime, it's time to eat, and then when it's time to sleep? Am I having troubles in these areas? And is it, and why? Is it how I'm saying it, or is there something more? And if we have, even if it just for a split second comes into our head, is there something more? Make the call, right? Write it down, give us a call. Because then we can help them answer that question, right? Do we need to do more?
Right. Yeah. Or if they're in doubt, if they see something that's not typical, or that's not something that normally happens, or there's a lack of, right? Then reach out and call so that they can get the services that they can get. And, early intervention is very important, right? The younger they are, we reach them earlier. We start developing supports, right? And so that will really help the child when they start to get older. So the GDOE 0 to 3 or early intervention is really important, because a lot of times we have a lot of babies, right, who are born for those reasons, such as maybe they're what do you call that, the fetal alcohol or things like that, right? And so even at that age, when we give birth, our babies get tested for hearing, right? So sometimes if they don't pass the hearing test, sometimes they're being referred to not necessarily early intervention, but maybe like public health, right? Yeah. So they'll look out for those kids who didn't pass their hearing test. So that's something that they have to monitor as they're getting older. Is this baby going to have hearing issues, right? So it's kind of like just checking it, and then if it's okay, then good. But early intervention is really key, and I think these guys are doing a great job at it.
Thank you.
So we just want to keep it going.
That makes sense. So moving on, we do have a couple of new events coming up. So one of them being the Parent Symposium.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what this Parent Symposium is supposed to be doing for the community?
Right. So we have our organization. It's not an organization, but it's a federally mandated group. It's called the Guam Advisory Panel for Students with Disabilities. So this panel is made up of teachers, community members, parents, and so they were developed to provide guidance to DOE, right, to ensure that our students with disabilities needs are being met. So, one of the things that we really want to promote is a lot of the parent participation, parent involvement, right? And so they wanted to do a symposium, and it's going to be held on October 4th. It's going to be at the Hyatt Regency Guam I believe it's from 8 to 3 p.m. And so we haven't sent out the registration information yet, but as soon as that comes out, it will be published, it will be advertised, and so parents can come to the symposium and attend. There will be breakout sessions where they will have different members of the community that will be presenting on different things, mental health and wellness. We even have maybe a breakout session on future planning, right? Because that is the ultimate goal. What are we going to do for our kids, not just when they're in school? It's life after high school, right? So those kinds of services we need to be able to assist parents with providing to our students. And then so there'll be like different sessions that the parents can attend, and it'll be a really great one. There's going to be a resource fair. There's also going to be some other guest speakers. There'll be a variety of guest speakers, like how to deal with behavior, right? So a lot of parents may need the support on how to deal with the students with their child's behavior. So we want to make that available to the parents. So this Parent Symposium, it's going to be a good one. It's a big one. So look out for it. And
if I might add, one of the important aspects of just our culture in this island life, right, is parents supporting other parents. And in all of the meetings and all of the trainings that I've been to, really, when you see that connection and parents start to share, and other parents, their eyes light up or tear up, right? Because they have lived kind of some of the similar situations, and they can be there for each other. So I understand that this is a really huge part also of our Parent Symposium, is creating this opportunity for these parents to network with each other and connect, and learn from each other, right? And it might be learning things to avoid, don't do this, right? Let's go this route. But it's also a time to recognize how far they've come and how much they are doing for their families, right? Because as a caregiver, you always think there must be something I'm missing, or I don't know if I'm doing enough, right? But this is going to be that opportunity for them to come celebrate all that they have done, all their little successes, remind them of how much work, right, that they put in, and that how they can give back to other parents just by even attending and being there. So we look forward to having all of those parents connect at the symposium.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I've never had to take care of someone who had some sort of disability, so I don't know the actual struggles personally.
Mhm.
But I do have like family members that had to take care of family members who have
Mhm.
disabilities, and I can see it's a very difficult ball game
Mhm.
for all the parents, anyone actually taking care of the person. It's a really difficult thing. So, in the terms of this symposium, how do you I guess measure the success of the event?
So, evaluation.
Yeah.
We always give an evaluation. Of course, we want as many people to come out, right? So we try to get feedback, from the parents and how these things work.
The other part of that formal evaluation, right? It's going to be what worked for you, what didn't, and how can we
What can we
improve.
do to improve?
Janice talked about on the B side, right? The parent advisory panel. On the 0 to 3 side, we have our interagency coordinating council that is made up of all the early childhood agencies, right? So at our last meeting, we talked about, and we've always talked about being that having that support system also, right? So we're looking forward to another session, another parent conference to be able to continue providing that support to the family. So when we think about how do we measure the success, right? We're going to get the input from those that attended, their feedback on what worked, what we can do better, what else they would like to see, and then use that to create and mold the next session so that we're building on what was shared and what was learned.
How often do we want to be doing these kinds of symposiums to get the parents involved, or just community in general involved?
Yeah. So I, at least twice a year, right?
Yeah.
Every 6 months. We would like to plan for as many as we can, but we also know families are very busy, right? And the reality is it's going to be that other thing, right? Another thing. And sometimes priorities get in the way, right? But if we can help to target at least twice a year, then I think that's gives us enough time to plan those quality sessions and incorporate all the input and the feedback that we get, and then build for the next one.
So just a reminder, it's going to be on October 4th at the Hyatt Regency Hotel.
Yes.
So all that has been confirmed. We haven't displayed any of the registrations.
No, so they're still going to have a QR link, for families to register, and so once that's available, then it'll be advertised.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. So I know we have other events too. So moving on, we have off the record, we were talking and chatting about the Check Me Out Fair that's going to be happening also in October.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit of what the Check Me Out Fair is going to be and what we hope to gain from it?
Right. So the Check Me Out Fair is going to be at the Village of Donkey on October 18 from 10 to 2. And at this fair, families can bring their children to get some screeners, and we are going to have screeners for speech and language, physical therapy. We are also going to have the different units from our division who will be able to provide some screeners in the event that there's parents who might, be thinking exactly what Tina was mentioning earlier, right? It's like if I'm having some kind of doubt, then I want to try to see, right? Is my child not meeting the milestones, right, of their speech? And so we want to offer this to the parents. It's also kind of part of like our child find, right? We have an obligation to locate and find these students. And so with this fair, which we're planning also twice a year, so this one and then sometime in the spring, we want to reach out to the parents if they're having any concerns about the development of their child, and the growth of their child. So they can come to the Check Me Out Fair and avail of those screeners and see, if their child is meeting those
So one of the screeners that we do for our early childhood is called the Ages and Stages Questionnaire. And it looks at the different domains, right? So communication, physical development, and it asks specific questions and tasks. And so at this fair, that's one of the screeners that we're going to be using based on the child's age again, and cross-checking against what typically children that age are doing and where they stand.
Yeah.
And at this point, it'll be an opportunity also if there are areas of concern that referral can be made immediately that day, and that process is started, right?
Okay.
So we want to encourage, even if you don't have concerns about your child, right? And you want to make sure, especially with our early childhood kiddos, come on, we encourage, come on down, do the screener, and also learn about strategies. Again, if they're in that gray area where, diagnostic or further evaluation is not, the first thing you need to do. You can, if you want to try other strategies, we're going to have those activities and materials available, resources available for families to take away also. So,
is this something that's free and open to the public,
Yes.
or?
Yes, it's free and open to the public.
Cool. Is there any prerequisites that we need to have before, or is it kind of like I could just kind of show up with my kid and be like, hey, screen him?
No, there's no prerequisite, but we are trying to make it a little bit, we're going to make it a little bit more inviting for the parents.
Okay.
So, we want to kind of have an incentive for them. So we're still working on that.
Okay.
So what it is, we're going to try to make it like a passport, right? We're going to have a passport book.
Okay.
They have to visit X amount of stations, right? We're going to have at least maybe 8 to 10. And so if they visit each of those stations, then they'll get something. Yeah. So we're still working on that. So we really are excited about this. Gosh, it's been a while since we've had a Check Me Out fair. So, we want to really try to reach out to our families and provide this service to them,
So after a Check Me Out fair happens, do we take all this information and maybe even help the parents enroll them into some sort of special education program, or what is the post event look like?
So when we do the screeners, right? So they're gonna do some kind of assessment, and if for example like speech, right? If there's child is not meeting certain criteria or whatever, then they can we'll probably have them do a child intake. Right? Maybe the parent has concerns, and then it'll start the process for, referring for possible evaluations on them. So it's to kind of like see, right? Like if my child is not able to identify their letters and they're at this age, then maybe that can be like we want to look at what the red flags are, right, in each of those units, in each of those stations. And so then that can result in a child intake, where we kind of take the information from the parents and then get more information from them, and then go from there to see if it's a possible referral for evaluations from special ed.
Is this only for children? So, like, let's say, I don't know, I was a 16-year-old kid, and maybe I never thought I had needed this special education, but I wanted to go get screened. Of course, I had a parent with me. Is that something possible for someone that's a little older to go see if they need that kind of help?
Of course. Anybody can come to the Check Me Out fair.
Okay.
Any age, yeah.
Awesome. I mean, if it was an adult, like someone that was 18 plus, what kind of, is that something we can help with, or is that something that's a little bit?
So we do for the schools, right? So let's say they're not in school anymore, they can also seek support or services from outside agencies DSID, DVR. But when they are in the DOE's school system, then we will be able to provide those services for them.
Okay.
And so even if they're 18, because like she was saying, Part C is 0 to 3. Part B is for students 3 to 21.
Oh, okay.
So we do have some students who are still, even though they're 18 already, they're still in the school system. For whatever the reason was that they're still in the school system.
So as long as they're still within GDOE,
yes.
they can use this Check Me Out there. Okay.
Yes. And so, we really want to target, right, our not just our young ones, right? But, we want to make sure that anybody who wants to have them checked, that's why it's called Check Me Out Fair, right?
Yeah.
It's come on over and we'll see, what we can provide for you.
Do they need a parental consent or a parent to be there at the fair? Because, like, let's say, sometimes 17-year-olds have cars and they're going to go to Drive Donkey because there's good food there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can a 17-year-old without a parent do the Check Me Out Fair?
I think so. I don't think there's anything wrong, but because we're not going to be doing anything that's, I don't know. What do you know if we need to have the parent there for the screeners? It's just a screener.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think if they come in, because we've had some outreach at the mall, and there were kids that was coming around, just kind of like visiting the stations to see, and so they were just curious, they were getting some information, and they didn't have their parents with them. So, but I think if it's to do the actual, assessment, then they would need, if they're a minor, they would need the parents there.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make sure that we cleared it up, that it is just a screener. You
It's just
don't
a
need a
screener.
parent with it because you're not going to be handling any sensitive information.
Right.
It's just to see and assess how the kids are, basically.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, like, that's going to be happening October 18th at at Donkey.
Yes.
Times and everything will be displayed a lot later. Of course, that's going to be coming out of my office. So
Yes. We will give you the flyer.
So, going on to the next topic, something that was brought up was a need for surrogate parents. Can you guys kind of go a little dive deeper into what we need and what is a surrogate parent?
Okay. So there are times when when we need a surrogate parent when a student, when a child's parent it cannot be located, if they are a ward of the state, and if it's a homeless child, right? Unaccompanied homeless child. So federal regulations state that our students' rights must still be protected, that they must still be provided the adequate support and the services, right? So that is why we need a surrogate parent. For example, if a parent's rights was taken away, if a parent was incarcerated, right? Or if they were taken away, if they're in a foster home. If they're a foster student, not foster home. So anytime the student is a ward of the state, and if we can't locate the parent and the homeless child, then they need to request for a surrogate parent, because that surrogate parent is going to act on behalf of the child.
Okay.
And they are going to be making decisions as the parent for the student's IEP, which is the Individualized Education Program. Or even, we even have some cases where there are students who are in the initial process of being referred, right? But parents parents' rights have been taken away. The student, like I said, those criteria, right? Those requirements of needing a surrogate parent. The surrogate parent will be the one to sit in to make those decisions for the student.
Okay.
And so, one of the things that we require is that the surrogate parent is knowledgeable, right, about what the requirement is, when it comes to the services, the supports for the student with a disability. And so right now we have only 2 surrogate parents that is serving, our district. So we want to invite anyone who would like to be a surrogate parent, and there are requirements to become a surrogate parent. You can't just be
random.
Yes,
I
yes.
can't be a surrogate. I could. Probably,
You can't,
but
yeah, because you're an employee of the
Okay.
agency. So a surrogate parent cannot be an employee of the agency, which is the DOE or any agency that is serving that child, right?
Okay,
They have an interest in the child, public health, right?
Public health,
So
maybe mental,
behavioral health and support. So those agencies, right? They're involved in the care of the child, right? So that's one of the requirements. What else is the requirement for a surrogate parent? So they cannot be as long as they don't have any personal interest in the child. And then, that's about that's about some of the requirements for a surrogate. Yeah.
So, like, walk us through it. You talked about the surrogate parents really being, I guess, like acting as a guardian, but is it separate from like a foster parent where they're not technically taking care of the child? They're just more of like a consultant? Is that the way it's kind of being portrayed?
Yeah. So if you are a foster parent, you get the rights as a parent, right? So you're going to make those decisions for the child. So the surrogate is really the one that's helping to ensure that the student's needs are being provided, right? They're just ensuring that whatever the student needs, is given to her. So there is a difference with a foster parent and a surrogate. So the surrogate kind of like, they're not taking care of the child. They're just, they call them up and say, okay, we have an IEP meeting. And so these surrogate parents are knowledgeable. They're given information on the kids, on the students. And so that way they can make informed decisions for our students.
So even in our 0 to 3 program, we may need to use a surrogate parent, right? For children that are in the shelter. They have not yet been identified a foster parent to be given that the power of attorney or the guardianship, right? The authority the legal, right? So in our situation, again, similar to B, when we prepare for the IFSP meetings, like all the decisions about services, about even they can talk about the outcomes and making sure again that the student, the child's rights and under the IDEA are being met, right? And that includes, timely service if something is supposed to happen, making sure that happens, and authorizing any of the services that the team recommends for the child to include, are we moving forward or not, right? And then that surrogate parent plays an important role in saying and thinking about what is in the best interest of the child, right? And making those decisions on their behalf.
Okay, awesome. So how does one apply or register to be a surrogate parent? So
they can just call our SPED office at 671-300-1322 and then just ask to be connected to the Parent Services Unit, and then we'll go from there, do some interview, check the qualifications, and just ensure that they're not, that they meet those criteria as a surrogate parent. Because we want to make sure that they're not, it's conflicting, so they can just call our SPED office.
Well, you heard it here, guys. If you are looking to be a surrogate parent or at least want to be able to volunteer your time to kind of give yourself to these students that need the parent/guardianship / a consultant to make these kinds of informed decisions, please do reach out.
Yes.
So
So I just wanted to also say, I mentioned earlier, I talked about the Guam Advisory Panel for Students with Disabilities. So with that too, if anybody is interested in being a part of that panel, again, it consists of parents, educators, community agencies. And so they kind of help to help the DOE to like programs or not policies, but like programs or what can they do. They give guidance to DOE on how we can better provide the services to our students. So if anybody is interested with that too, they can call our SPED office and express interest.
All right. Okay, cool. So can you give us a little bit of a background of what this Guam Advisory Panel is for students with disabilities? Like, what are the expectations? What are their like day-to-day operations kind of thing is?
So I know the Guam Advisory Panel, they don't meet like every month. I think their meeting is quarterly, if I'm not mistaken, or they meet. And so it's, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's a group. They advise the DOE on how to best meet the needs of the students, right? So they make recommendations. So one of the things that they're spearheading is this parent symposium. So surveys are done. They ask the parents what are the needs, right? What is it that you want, right, for your child? So they provide that kind of service. They give us they basically guide us, you know, they give their input, they make recommendations to the assistant superintendent of special education, and we work together, you know, we identify challenges, recommendations, and just finding things to make it, I guess, more successful for our students.
So I think when you think about who we're looking for and who we would hope to send in their name, right? We want to think about all of those parents that are out and involved, that have lots of friends that people talk to them about stuff, right? Yeah. They have that comfort level of, hey, by the way, you know, this is the struggle that I'm having. And if you find yourself that's you, like your friends come to you and they seek your advice and, you know, and guidance and who can I talk to? If that's your personality and you want to give back, this is a great opportunity, because then you can be an extension, right, of our department out into the community, helping to gather the information and the input, are kind of boots on the ground in the systems that we're trying to serve, right? And in the communities where perhaps they don't have any other opportunity to get their voices heard. They're too shy. They don't know the numbers. They don't have access. But if this is a role that you play in your community, in your family, you know, you are who we're looking for, right? So, you know, consider putting your name in, getting involved and giving back in that way, even if it's to relay the information that you are hearing, so that we can start to see some action and it not just be, you know, complain. We want to hear those challenges and we want to start to work towards solutions.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you know, I want to thank you, fine ladies, for coming here and really sharing and expressing everything about the special education department. So thank you, Ms. Tina, and thank you, Ms. Janice. We appreciate your time.
Our pleasure.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead. We'll take a quick little break and we'll be back.
One pill can kill. Fake pills often contain fentanyl. It only takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl, equivalent to a few grains of salt, to be lethal. Fake pills are often sold on social media platforms, making them available to anyone with a smartphone.
Talk early and often to youth about the dangers of misusing prescription drugs and the lethal dangers of counterfeit drugs laced with fentanyl.
Stay informed, stay safe. One pill can kill.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the radio stations of Glimpses Media Group, Wave 105 FM, and Power 98.
Hafaday, Guam. Engage in a conversation made for the veterans of Guam with Johnny and Miss Bobby. We want to hear concerns and comments. Tune in every Wednesday for our new time, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Wave 105, the talk of Guam.
Hafaday at Wave 105 FM. We want to talk. We want to talk about the things that are important to our island and our community, and we want to talk with you. If you want to join the conversation, if you want to chime in, we welcome it. We welcome all points of view, all thoughts, all perspectives. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. If that line is busy, then call us at 922-1052. This is Talk for Everyone. Thanks for listening to Wave 105 FM, the talk of Guam.
Get double the speed at zero extra cost with GTA Fiber. Experience super fast and reliable fiber internet speeds, now starting at 200 Mbps to 1 gig, with upload speeds just as fast as download speeds and 100 times faster than cable internet. You can enjoy lag-free gaming and clear video calls. Fast is also affordable. Sign up for Fiber 200 for only $70 a month. Visit gta.net or call 644-4482. Terms and conditions apply.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
Buenas and Hafaday. Hey guys, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Edukuentos, where we had Miss Tina and Miss Janice from the special education department, mainly focused around the Guam early intervention system. And so we want to thank them for coming on and really showcasing the different things. Of course, the rebranding of our special education department into that whole Guam early intervention 0 to 3 outlook. We're also going to be, again, there were a couple of outlooks and a couple of events that we were looking at coming into. So the Parent Symposium, which was going to be on October 4th, if I do recall. Again, registrations haven't opened just yet, but they'll be open, readily available. My office will be the one that will be able to provide all the QR codes and all the registration stuff after they've confirmed it. And again, we do have the Check Me Out Fair on October 18th, another big event where you can bring your students or the kids and to come just get screened and assessed if they need some sort of additional educational plan. And of course, the other two things that they brought up, a need for surrogate parents. If you are willing to volunteer your time to come be like some sort of a consultant to these students that do not have that guardianship, that parentship, to come and reach out. You can call us, call the special education department, which you can find their number on the website at gdoe.net. And you can also, if you are also possibly a person that wants to reach out to the community and kind of assist in that way where you can provide information and feedback to us so that GDOE can better its resources, then of course call up the special education department and ask them about the Guam advisory panel for students with disabilities. That's going to be all the time that we have here for Edukuentos on this good Friday. Thank you very much for everyone who joined and wanted to stay tuned and listen to this episode on special education. I'm Damen Michael, signing off with Reese the Beast.
KGUM FM, Daddy No.